Hey guys, thanks for watching 205 Outdoors. I'm your host Freddie Dillard, and today we're going to talk about cell cameras. So today is July the 22nd. I'm getting ready to go back to the property. You know, if you watched the last video, I was there on I think it was July the 6th or the 8th. I think it was July the 8th. I was there, put out cameras, had some bug tracks and some sign I wanted to just get an idea. And I did see one of the bucks, and it looks like I don't know, it's hard to tell. Their antlers are still developing right now, but it looks like a 3-year-old, possibly a 4-year-old buck that's coming through there. But he's a heavier buck. You can tell by looking at him. But that's what I'm doing this time of year. I like to move cameras about every 2 weeks, and I may go out there today and put 5 or 6 cameras on one field, just to try, if I know that there's good bucks in that area. So if you just put your camera on the far end of the field and walk off, and you may miss half your bucks. I mean, they may just walk on the other side of the field and eat, and you may not ever see one. And so this time of year, I like to cover as much as possible, and I'll leave it out there, like I said, for 2 weeks and then go and remove it. But I want to talk to you a little bit about the cameras that I'm using. So in 2019, I started using cell cameras. I started hunting more, and the first camera I got was the Moultrie cell camera. It was the Moultrie 7000i. And I really kind of liked that camera. It took good images. My only downside to that, and the only downside really to that camera was really just the setup process. And it was only like 3 buttons. It really wasn't that complicated, but you just never knew if it was actually set up right. So you would get to your property, and keep in mind, our lease is about 45 minutes away. And once you get to the lease, you're probably, I don't know, maybe 10 or 15 minutes, either by 4-wheeler or truck, if you can get in there, an extra drive just to get back to where the camera actually is. And then you're disturbing a lot of things in there too. So if you have a camera that's not really sending images like it's supposed to, and you've got to go check it out, it defeats the purpose. So you want something that works and it's really consistent about that. So the Moultrie for me was kind of hit or miss, and it was a lot more miss than hit. So a lot of times I would get there, get to the property, and at that point I only had 2 cameras, and it would take a solid day just to get those up and running to where I felt comfortable leaving. It was sending pictures, and sometimes I just had to not having any test images, and so you didn't even know if you had the camera pointed at what you were wanting to point at. You just had to leave and go home because you haven't got images back yet, and it's really frustrating. And anyway, so after I had Moultrie for I probably had Moultrie for 2.5 years, 2.5 seasons. I did get a stealth cam in between there. That's this camera, and I use it occasionally. If I like at my mom's property, she's got a few acres, and I may put a feeder out there and use the stealth cam for. Just the rut or something, just have some images. Or she likes to look at pictures of does and stuff, and so I may put that out there. The image quality on the stealth cam is not really that bad. The app's fine. It's a little bit pricier than what these Tactacams are. So leading into that, I went to Tactacam. I tried the new Moultrie, the Delta, and I just didn't really like it. The same problem. I kept having issues with getting images, and I just couldn't get them to work right. So I went to a local hunting, fishing, sporting goods store, and they were giving a lot of praise to these Tactacams. And I said, well, we'll try one. So I tried one. I took it. I actually did a test. I took a Moultrie, the new Moultrie. This was a couple years ago. It was when they came out with the Moultrie Delta, I think, or the X. I think it was the Moultrie Delta, and it was supposed to get superior signal. So I bought one of each. It was for Father's Day, and we got all the way down to the property, and we've got this one area, they call it the big power line, and it's got a big dip in it, and it's really hard to get signal. My cell phone does not get signal there. And I told my wife, I said, we're just going to try it and just see if either one of these cameras can get cell signal there. And then sure enough, the Tactacam did, the Moultrie did not. I ended up taking the Moultrie back, returned it, and bought a second Tactacam, and I've never really looked back. The things that I like about Tactacam, and I'm not sponsored by them. I just really like the product. I went and picked up one yesterday. Actually, I'm going to the club today to put out a few more. So, really simple. You open the little door. You go to setup. You wait for the green light to quit flashing, letting you know that you have a signal. You press test, and then this little light right here starts blinking. And I mean, usually within 10 seconds, I've got images coming across, and then you just go to on and you're done. And so that's simple, and it's been that way for the last 2 years. So I've used these, and I run about seven or eight. I think I got 8 cameras now, 7 or 8. But I run multiple cameras, and I just don't have any issues out of them, and that's the reason why I like them. Now, I will say this, the batteries, and this is across the board with any cell cam, but it depends on how you use them. I use my cameras this time of year, I use it pretty minimal. I'm setting up on trails and roads and things like that, and even in food plots, it catches deer, but it's not a whole lot. So I'm not burning a whole lot of battery. But the closer it gets to season, the part of our property, especially that allows corn, I'm going to be putting out corn, and that's just going to draw in more does. And so I always keep my cameras on instant. So I don't allow any kind of delay in my cameras as far as you can set it up to have a 10-second delay or a 5-minute delay between pictures. I want mine to be instant because I don't want to take a chance on a buck walking across and me just see the back of a deer and not know what it was, and because I had it set on, or missed the deer altogether because I had it set on some sort of delay. So I don't use delays. Because of that, you use a lot of battery. So if I'm running, especially in season when we got corn piles and things, and you have multiple does coming in there feeding, and it's set on instant, I mean, you'll burn through your batteries in no time. I mean, a week you may get out of a lithium battery. So I started making my own battery boxes, and this is just I think it's a $5 or $6 ammo can. I had it got at Walmart. With that, I think Wild Game Innovation makes a battery, a 12-volt battery. This is a Duracell that I picked up somewhere. But got one of these, and these batteries are, I think this one was 30, but the Wild Game one's around 20 or 22 bucks. And then real important, so this cable right here, it's about $10 on Amazon, and I'll put a link to it. The cable that goes to, the connector that goes to the Tactacam is completely different than the one that goes to, say, the Moultries or the StealthCam. It's a different size end on it. So just be aware of that. And all I basically do with this ammo can is drill a little hole in it, run the cable through it, and I'll get about a month out of each charge. And then I'll just I usually keep, so I've got 8 boxes, I've got 8 batteries, and then 8 spare batteries. So I'll keep them charging here, and then whenever I need to go switch them out, I'll run through the property and switch all my batteries out, and then take them home and put the old ones on charge. And that way I'm not continuously, because a pack of lithium batteries, if you bought enough to do 2 cameras, I mean, that's about 40 bucks just for, by itself. And then, you burn through them that quick. I mean, you'll break the bank on batteries. But doing these rechargeable 12 volts, a little bit cheaper option. Moultrie does make a battery pack, but again, for Moultrie cameras, or you can use it. I think it'll fit the StealthCam as well. But Tactacam is the only one I found that's got this. It's a smaller adapter in, so just be aware of that. So if you're using Tactacam, you're going to need to get the special one. And like I said, they're $10 on Amazon. It's not that much. So, and then the other thing that I like to use is this HME, and this thing is old and dirty, but it's going back out in the woods again today. HME, that's a camera stand. So a lot of times, especially if you looked at our last video, you saw the clear cuts and things. There's not a lot of trees to strap a camera onto, so these things come in handy there. And also in these green fields, a lot of times I don't like to necessarily, especially if it's a big green field, I don't want to put it, I always want to put my cameras on the edge of them on a tree. Sometimes I want to put them out in the middle and try to catch deer, moving back and forth and feeding across. Anyway, so these are a good option for things like that. And sometimes the only tree available is just not really where you want the camera at. And so again, you just use these little stands and you don't have to worry about it. As long as you got ground that you can push through. You get dried up rocky ground, it's a little more complicated. So moving on, I want to talk a little bit now about software. So the app, this is the one area that I think Tactacam could really stand to improve. Moultrie, in my opinion, is way better than Tactacam when it comes to the app on your phone, or when you log in and the way that you view your images. So with Moultrie, and I hope I can explain this right, I'm going to actually log in and do some screenshots to further explain what I'm talking about. But in Moultrie, I mentioned that I move my cameras pretty often, and so every time I move them, I want to rename them. And so I name, for instance, I may say Road to 7, or Field 3, or Field 14, or whatever, whichever field. And so I'll name those. And then 2 weeks later, I'm going to move that one that was on Field 14. I may move it to Field 6 or whatever, Dove Field or whatever. And so with Moultrie, it categorizes each one of those names into a folder, and those images that were associated with that name go into a specific folder. And so you can go through and search. You can go and say, I want to filter down to Field 1, 2019. And it'll give you all the images, and you can either further, filter it down to I just want to look at bucks or turkeys or whatever, and you can do that. And that is the good thing about Moultrie. Or you can do moon phase. It's a whole lot of options. Tactacam's a little behind the curve on that. So whenever I move, so when I move from one field to the other, it doesn't change any of that. It doesn't store those images to a specific folder. It's just associated with this camera. So that's the bad thing. So I may rename this camera 5 times before season, and if I don't realize which field that is, if I don't just have it marked in my brain or just somehow have it marked, this is going to change the name of it. So if this camera may be called Field 14 today, and I may change it to Field 7 in 2 weeks or whatever. Well, all those images are going to show to come from whatever the last camera name was instead of where it actually was, if that makes sense. So there's not individual folders. I'm going to try to show that on the app because I don't know that I'm explaining that well. But that is, being able to, so if I wanted to look at images from 2022 when I first got the camera, a buck on Field 14, I'm going to have to scroll through 2 years worth of data to try to find that. And I think you can narrow it down to at least bucks. So I can't just look for bucks. But that's one of the areas that I do wish that Tactacam would do an upgrade and be able to categorize and make folders. And it's really just in their app. And that's one area, like I said, if I could merge the two and have Tactacam's quality as far as being able to ease of setup and the confidence of knowing that I'm getting images, and then have Moultrie's app to view them with, that would be the best of both worlds. All right, guys, since I think Moultrie is probably the best as far as the mobile app goes, I will go ahead and start with there. So scrolling through, the image quality is comparable to the other cameras. It's decent quality, and these cameras here that I'm looking at, these were my older ones, and I haven't had these I think since 2022. So these are probably a little bit older, but the cameras are going to be, the quality will probably be similar now. And so image quality is never really an issue with Moultrie or Tactacam. There's a little buck on here, and you see it's got detail. He was obviously, I think, in velvet during this summer picture. But right here you have your smart tags. You can search for bucks or whatever. There's an older buck right there, looks like. He's on the downside. And that was back in 2021. The big thing about Moultrie is these folders right here. So like I said, if I every time I rename a camera in Tactacam or Stealth Cam or the rest of them, it just deletes this. But this Moultrie categorizes these folders, so I can go back and look at a folder from, a couple of years ago where I had named a camera, say a Law Dog 7 or LD7, and go back and look and pull up images from when I had the camera in that location. And that's something that I'm unable to do with the other ones. This is one of probably the biggest things about Moultrie's app that I like, is the ability to do that. Of course, you can narrow it down to buck or doe or pig or whatever. All of them have that capability. But the image quality across all these is pretty comparable. I think Spy Point's a little bit less. It's just not really that good. Looking at the plans, Moultrie is a little more on the expensive side. So you're going to see about $10 for 1,000 images. This is on the, I'm going over their monthly plans. Now they have monthly and annual. So if you do monthly, you got $9.99 for 1,000, $16.99 for unlimited. Keep in mind. And then they have this Pro Series that is $34.99 per month. And I guess you get videos and unlimited images and all kind of things for that kind of price. I guess you should get a lot. You should probably get hunting land at that point. But they do offer that. And so go back up here and look at their annual subscription. So it's a little bit of a break when you do annual. So it drops down to $8.99 for 1,000 images if you buy it annually, if you pay for the whole year. $12.99 if you, $8.99 for the month. $12.99 if you pay by the year. There we go. And then I think if you do that Pro plan, it's around $22 a month if you buy it by the year. So let's take a look now at Tactacam. I'm sorry, this is the Stealth Cam. This is the Stealth Cam. Sorry, this is Command Pro apps. This is Stealth Cam. And I've just had this one in my backyard. And again, the images look fine. You have all the, the contents tags. You can look at date, time of day, temperature, and they all three apps, they all have some version of that. This fairly decent. I don't use that stuff a whole lot, but I occasionally, if I'm looking at I do like to learn to know current wind directions, and it's helpful to see when deer come into these fields if they're looking more than east wind, or if they're coming in with the wind, or it just if they're just kind of random. It does help to kind of sort that out. But it's not something I look at a whole lot. But if you'll look on here, excuse me. If you'll look on here, you'll notice that when I select cameras, there's not a whole bunch of camera folders. This camera's been all over our club property, so it's been renamed multiple times, but it does not categorize each location like the Moultrie app did. That is the big difference between Moultrie and the other. Is that one little feature. So if that's important to you, you may want to think about Moultrie. But really, that's about the only pro that I had to Moultrie, is that one feature in the app. So let's look at their prices. So their data plans we're going to look at the monthly first. So they have some cheaper options for 600 images. It's around $5. 1,200 is $8. Now remember, 1,000 was $10 with Moultrie, and then it's $20 per month for the unlimited. So Moultrie was $13 a month, I think, for the unlimited, if I've got that right. Or no, 16. Moultrie was 16 for the unlimited. And then if you buy the yearly, it's $120 for the year, which is Moultrie's was $155. And so yearly plan obviously can be the way to go. It just depends on what you're wanting to do. So now let's look at the Tactacam. So that's what I currently use almost exclusively. And the image quality, again, is comparable to the rest. So we'll take a look at anytime I pull this up, I got to brag on that buck that I killed in 2022. This is the 11 point, and this is one of the pictures I had of him. And I think he was still in velvet during these pictures. So got this one. We'll zoom in and take a look. Nice buck. And then this is the front. And so that's that buck. So let's look over. And again, just to show you, these are the current names of the different cameras that I've got on there. So I can kind of scroll down. These are your options for them. And see, the camera folders are the current ones. You know, like I said, you don't have a separate folder showing, you know, some of the past names that I've called some of these cameras. So it's difficult to search. You know, if you don't remember which camera you had in Field 7 a year ago, you're not going to be able to pull it. You're just going to have to look through all your images, which is kind of a bummer. So it's going to take a lot longer. But again, the image quality is great on these. Your plans, so the Pro plan, the monthly is, and this is unlimited, is $13 a month, so it's one on the it's the cheaper one for monthly. Yearly is $120, which is the same as Stealth Cam. You have this intermediate, you know, $5, 500 images for $8 yearly, and then the starter plan is $250. All right, each of these cameras can be linked to whichever cell service works best in your area. Verizon works best in mine, but you can get T-Mobile or AT&T, either one. Anyway, thanks for watching 205 Outdoors, and please remember to like and subscribe for more content.